everyone. I have one of my paintings here with me today because I've been talking, there's been a bit of a divide, I think, on my YouTube channel because I've started talking a lot about my spiritual awakening journey, my own personal stuff that I have going on. And the reason for that is because my work is so deeply connected, like what I make is so deeply connected to my personal journey. I don't make decorative art. I make art that I find very beautiful and hopefully others do too. But my work is fundamentally a reflection of my soul, my soul's journey, all these things that I talk about. But I thought it might be a good idea to actually talk directly about one of my pieces because this particular piece is really, like all my pieces are, a direct reflection of my soul, of my state of being in that moment. And it's from a couple of years ago, but it was during a really transitional, really, really challenging point. I wasn't in the middle of my spiritual awakening journey, but I think it was actually like the preparation stage, the preparatory stage. Sorry, I'm jumbling my words. And it was at the end of a very long chapter of my life, and I was really having to find a lot of inner strength to kind of stand firm in the face of a lot of adversity, a lot of stuff, a lot of difficult stuff, with a very long relationship that was ending, with a housing situation that was being settled, with drama within my family circle that was a reflection of all of that. I had some really big health issues as well. I was going through chronic fatigue. Like at the time, I'm also a yoga teacher, as I've mentioned on this channel before, briefly. So I was like, went from practicing yoga like up to 2 hours a day, feeling like in the best shape of my life, to just like, boom, couldn't move off the couch, was totally couch ridden. So I'd never really understood what chronic fatigue was until it hit me. And I realized when it hit me that it was my soul basically telling me to stop. Like I was just living totally out of alignment with my truth, living totally out of alignment with where my soul wanted to be. I was totally on the wrong trajectory. And because I wouldn't willfully, consciously take myself out of that situation, my body kind of just pulled the handbrake. And that was my first, even though I had always been a huge, huge, huge believer in whatever happens in your body is a reflection of your emotional state, your soul, your spirit trying to communicate something to you. It is always the case. But I had never until that point had such a clear, really crystal clear illustration of that happening. So this painting, I'm not going to hold it up for too long because it's really big, but this painting, I'll do story time with it, is the result of that period. And I will pop it down now and in a moment, and then just maybe pop an image on the screen so you can still see it. But yeah, so here, this is my head, and this is a self-portrait of me depicted with the head of a lioness. And you can see there's this kind of, I'll pop an image up on the screen. I think that's easier. And you can see there's this kind of red, fiery, kind of desert looking background. And none of that was accidental. I felt like my world was on fire. I felt like, yeah, I felt like I was standing in the face of just like mushroom clouds going up behind me kind of thing. Huge catastrophic endings. Like I said, a lot of turmoil in all different facets of my life, from health to family to relationships to my house, my place of living. And I remember I just had to draw on such inner strength. So even though I wasn't consciously going through an awakening, I firmly learned later on, I completely understood that this was the preparation for, me then going on for what else happened throughout my awakening journey and what's happened in the years that followed. So it wasn't too many years ago, this painting, it's just a handful. but a hell of a lot has happened in that handful of years. And the interesting thing about this painting is it wasn't until I'd never painted just the way it's kind of like symmetrical, that kind of front and center composition, the colors, lots of reds and yellows and oranges. It's not so much my style, and also the fact that I wanted to frame it with this kind of golden box frame. It's just this really pow kind of piece. And in many ways, I'd never painted a line before. In many ways, it was kind of uncharacteristic of my works. And it wasn't until I was looking online and I was kind of looking up maybe some kind of mythology or something that might kind of align with this kind of image, because it came from my heart. I knew what it was about. To me, it was about this drawing on this inner strength and this kind of really powerful feminine strength within. And I just happened to discover through searching, through my Google search, that I had created this depiction of Sekhmet, which is an ancient Egyptian goddess who was the daughter of Ra, the sun god. And I literally painted her, and I had no idea. I'd never even in passing, I knew nothing about the stories of Egyptian, ancient Egypt, mythology rather, of ancient Egypt. I'd never heard this story. I'd never heard of Sekhmet. I'd never heard of Ra. Now I do have a Middle Eastern background. It's not Egyptian, but it was so fascinating because I thought, wow, like even the fact that she's basically standing in front of this fiery desert, like there's this cloud, and you can see almost it's like a dust cloud, it's got all those colors of the sun reflecting and this fire in the background. The whole thing, I looked at it, and when I read that, I just felt this through my chest. I was like, oh my gosh, I have somehow tapped into that goddess. And I just thought that was fascinating. So I wanted to get on here and share that. But these are the sorts of synchronicities sometimes that happen throughout the painting process, because I'm the sort of person, I try to mind my own business as much as possible, as far as looking at other artists, as far as I love mythology and things like that, but I try not to look at any depictions, any artist depictions of any myths, anything like that, because I do not want it to influence my work. I want to, of course, I have artists' work who I can appreciate and admire, but I try not to consume. I try to consume and expose myself to as little as possible of other people's work, other people's depictions. That's why I love looking at, classical Renaissance art and things like that. But I really try to minimize it. So I'm not the sort of person who will get online and start Googling things before a painting, because I don't like that it tends to plant a seed in my subconscious mind. And I really want to maintain the originality and the sovereignty of my style and my work. So yeah, so I can 100% validate and verify the fact that that was purely came from within. And it was just an incredible synchronicity. And I don't believe it was actually a synchronicity, or I don't believe it was a coincidence. I believe it was some kind of channeling of that energy. And I just find that incredible. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think it's something remarkable. And I think that it weaves in a lot with what I talk about with my own awakening journey, my own personal stuff that's going on. And it's a perfect example of how interconnected, my personal journey and my art and what I create, and the energies and the stories that it connects with and what comes through it as well. So thank you for listening. It's just a quick one today. If you liked hearing about this work and you want me to share more of my work in this way and kind of tell you the stories behind them, because every single one of these has an interesting story behind it, yeah, drop a comment and let me know. And for now, I will leave it there. So thanks so much for listening. I will see you in the next one.